For this week's Daily Race B, we're back at Lago Maggiore, but this time we've got the full circuit to play with. It's Group 3 and racing hard tyres for the second week in a row, so once again I'll be using the Porsche 911 RSR with the brake balance set to +3. There's no other setups enabled this week, so let's get on with the lap guide. Heading onto the straight to begin our lap, you want to be over to the right hand side as you cross the line and getting ready for the first braking marker, which is the end of these stands on the right. You want to brake just after you pass that and then turn in by this signpost. You're aiming to cut across the curb and be down to first gear for the rotation. You should be able to mostly coast through this corner before heading over to the right. Our next braking point is this grid marker. It'll be a solid dab of the brakes, and then you want to swing out a little bit to get a better line for the next bend. You're aiming to be right over this curb as you go round the corner, and continue to coast through it in first gear. Then slowly start to get on the power as you exit the corner. It's very easy to spin out here if you get on the power too fast. From there, you're aiming to swing in an arc, going near to the apex of the blocked off curve over on the right. As you swing in, you want to keep tight to this curb on the left. I briefly drop to second gear for the extra rotation. Keep to the left as you come round the bend, and the next braking point is where the orange barrier ends. Or you can use the marshal box and brake just past that. Get as wide left as you can for the next turn, and change down to first for the rotation. You're aiming to turn in so that you cut the curb on the right. You want a fairly steep angle to flatten the corner, so don't turn in too early. Gradually build on the power as you go round the corner. You can go quite far over onto these curbs, just make sure your outside tyres are touching it and you'll be fine. They can be very slippy though, so I change up to third for less wheel spin. From there, you're just powering down the hill, keeping to the left all the way down and looking out for the next braking point, which is just at the end of this thin curbing. You'll be braking following the curve of the track, so be careful not to stray onto the grass, which will cause you to slide. Turn in around where the stands start, aiming to clip the curb just past the apex. Avoid hitting the orange sausage curb as you cut across, and start building on the power again, being careful not to go too wide on the exit. You can use all of the curb, but ensure you get back onto the track before the grass starts. Turning in, you're aiming to keep over to the right, so you can get a good approach into the tricky fast sector coming up. Get as far right as you can before the next braking point, which is just after the start of the curb, or you can use the end of the fence on the left. Braking in a straight line, you'll be changing down to second gear and turning in just before the end of the curb. This is the first part of a fast winding section that can make a huge difference to your lap times, so you want to make this first turn in as good as possible. Try to get as far over this curb as possible while keeping your outside tyres on it to avoid a penalty. I change up to third when I'm sure I've turned in enough to be able to accelerate through this corner. Once I get past the end of the grass on the left, I'm aiming for the curb opposite. Again, we're looking to be right over on this curb in order to give us a wider turn onto the next one. Turn in as you're leaving the end of this curb, making sure the outside tyres are back over the white line as the curb ends, and we'll be revving out third gear for the rotation as we aim for the opposite curb. Take all of the striped curb on this bend as well, give it as much space as possible for the next turn. You want to get up to fourth gear as soon as possible, but ensuring the car is turned in enough to make the corner. If you get it right, you'll just be clipping this curb where the lines meet and starting your turn to meet the curb on the next corner. Keep revving in fourth gear through this turn to help with the rotation. Take as much of this curb as you can without hitting the orange sausage curb, and then you're aiming for the white painted curb opposite. You'll be staying in fourth until you get to that, and then change up to fifth. If you've got the line right, you'll be able to be on full power through the bend, swinging near the curb on the left, and then staying over to the left hand side as we accelerate down the hill. Then we're looking out for the next braking point, which is this flag box on the left. You'll be turning in after the end of the curb and aiming for a late apex, so you'll be cutting across the curbing on the far side of the turn. Try to take this corner in second gear for a better exit, although you can drop to first for extra rotation if you overshoot a bit. You want to cut as much of this curb as possible to give you plenty of space on the exit. Be careful getting back on the power as it's easy to spin out here or put a tyre into the gravel. Build on the power out of the turn and head over to the right of the track for our next marker, which is the start of this curb on the right. This is just a turning in point and you'll be aiming for the white painted curb opposite and staying in fourth gear through this bit. Once you straighten up out of the turn, you're again turning in and heading for the curb on the right. You can cut across this curb as long as the outside tyres don't stray inside it. I change up to 5th gear at this point, although if you're running a bit wide, stick with 4th until you get onto the straight. Keep over to the left after the turn, and you're looking out for the next braking point, which is this pole on the left. Brake in a straight line until you turn in around the 50 board, and aim to cut across the curb opposite. I'm taking this corner in 3rd and largely coasting to manage my speed and stay tight to the curb, but you can briefly drop to 2nd if you need the extra rotation. From there, you're aiming to catch the arc of the opposite curb. At the end of this curb, I'll be dropping to 2nd and maybe scrubbing a little speed to allow me to coast into the next one. Again, you want to be right over this curb to give you a wider line to the next corner. I'm back up to 3rd when I get to this point and aiming for the curb opposite. There's 2 paths you can take for this bend. The safer path I usually go for is to stay on the outside of the sausage curb. The risky path is going right over it, which can be a little quicker and give you more space on exit, but if you hit the curb you're either going to lose some speed or be bounced wide. From there, keep powering through the turn, being careful not to go out too wide, and you're looking out for the next braking marker, which is this sign on the left. Brake in a straight line, then drop to 3rd and start to turn in at the end of the curb. I'm coasting into the next corner and aiming to cut right across the curb, ensuring I keep my outside tyres on it to avoid a penalty. Then it's a case of timing when to get on the power so you don't go too wide on the exit. Ideally, you'll just be clipping the curb as you get onto the straight, and then keep it on the right hand side as you cross the line to finish the lap. I've shared this lap in game, search for Gr3 if you want to check it out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.